Biofriendly podcast. It's the Biofriendly podcast.
Jacob, you're mean in the morning.
Am I?
Oh man,
Am I really?
When we do an early recording, it's you're like,
I feel terrible.
You're like, oh no, guest, you can't talk right now. Don't talk. No, you be quiet.
This is a side of me that you've never seen before. It's usually pleasant Jacob by 10 a.m., but at 8 a.m., oof, he's a monster.
It's just the rules. Gotta follow him.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what happens in our show, which is we kick off friendships with people so fast. You know,
too many friends.
And today on the podcast we have a guest.
What?
Yes. That's my favorite. We have a guest this morning, and we're recording a little earlier than normal, so we don't have Elise today. So it's just me and Noel.
We don't. She's probably going to kill us.
She's going to kill us.
We didn't invite her. Well, we would have invited. It's early.
It's early.
I didn't want Elise to feel like she's got to show up at this hour.
Right,
Because you know sometimes you feel obliged.
Yeah, and she's new too, so she
Yeah.
would have done it just because she would have been like,
right. She's like, well, if this is what we got to do, and she's always up to like she stayed late that one time when I was doing the remote. So Elise is awesome.
She's been a team player.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think she would have totally, absolutely shown up at the early hour. But it's Monday, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. We're recording on a Monday, ladies and gentlemen, even though today is Thursday, obviously. Or is it Friday?
We're gonna move to Fridays now.
It's Friday right now. Well, happy Friday, everybody.
It's Friday. I'm in
Enough
love.
about us.
Yes. Let's welcome our guest. You've heard him chuckling in the back, and the reason why Noel was saying I was being mean was we started the Zoom call, and before we got going, we were starting the pleasantries, but very quickly, I was like, we got stuff we're gonna be bonding over, and I can't. This is gold.
We got a bond live.
This is podcast gold.
Bond live, man.
So right now, we would like to welcome to the show Jonathan Levy, known as the Zero Waste Guy.
Hey!
Yes.
Welcome,
Hello.
Jonathan. Did we
Thanks for having
pronounce
me.
all your names?
If I knew that I was half a mile away from you right now, I probably would have invited myself over.
Unreal.
I know.
Well, next time, that's what we'll have to do.
Yeah, I'd say next time we just have you come in.
Yeah.
Did we pronounce your name correctly? Because
people
we have a habit of pronouncing everyone's name wrong. Is it really like Jonathan Levi?
I usually say Levy, but as long as you say "Hey you,"
I knew we'd get it
but
wrong.
I have people that save my name as Zero Waste Guy in their phone. So as long as you know if you Google Jonathan Levy, you'll get 500 doctors and some lawyers. And then me, but if you Google Zero Waste Guy, then
it's only you.
I'm the only one. So
And that one other guy who's like, it's like, I'm Zero Waste Guy. You're like, no, you're not.
Levy.
Just kidding.
I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you in my phone as
I'm the Zero.
I'm going to save you in my phone as the ZWG.
People reach out to me, all over the world wanting to talk about stuff, and I wasn't familiar with your company when you reached out. So then I got your email,
So you
Jacob,
blocked us?
yesterday, and it said Pasadena, and I was like, oh man, not only is that Pasadena, it's walking distance from where I am at this moment.
Okay, so
funny.
Pasadena. Let's where I've got to know. I actually was born. I was born in Verdugo Hills Hospital. That's how, which is just
Lovely.
let down the street in La Cañada. But the house I grew up in was in Pasadena, and then for a while we moved a little bit away. But I've been in Pasadena for probably 30 of my 40 some odd years.
You're very
of my
young.
life. That's how long so I'm a Pasadena guy.
Wow,
Yeah,
you are a Pasadenan
I am.
officially, tried and true. I moved here in 2008, so I'm an transplant, an immigrant to Pasadena.
Nice.
From I went to Cal Poly Pomona, and I studied operations management. It's all about supply chain management, and then got hired into like warehousing and because that's what people with operations degrees do is they get roped into warehouses.
We have a rule in this podcast that if you're gonna be part of this podcast, you must have gone to Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, or UC Berkeley. That's the only schools apparently.
Seriously, we have a roster.
The Cal Polys are two of the top tier public schools in the state that aren't UCs.
Awesome.
So I claim it when I can.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Were you from California originally, born and raised?
I'm from near Berkeley actually. So I'm from the East Bay area, and I moved down here to go to college. And I was like, I wanted to go as far away that was still in-state tuition, and I thought I would be like away. And then I was like, it's California, and it was such a culture shock when I got down here. The first culture shock, again, because I work in waste, was getting down here. In my dorm room, there was a dumpster, but there was no recycle bin. I go, where's the recycling? No, don't worry, they take care of it for you. And I think that says a lot about Southern California culture. Don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Some bro comes in and digs through the trash, and he figures it goes to Mars or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere.
Actually, it's a crazy thing. Did you know that right now we have an expert on waste who can tell us exactly where it does go?
Right here?
Right now.
Jonathan Levy?
Unbelievable.
The ZWG?
Well,
ZWG.
Yeah, I could try and tell you where it goes, but that's not always. There's not a lot of transparency, which is part of the problem, which I'm trying to bring light to. Is that
okay? Well, before we get into that, how
yeah.
did you become? Why zero waste guy? So how did you go from operations into I'm going to focus on cutting out waste completely?
Yeah, I was working in a nearly 2 million square foot warehouse for Target in the Central Valley. So like 2 million square feet, like
that's a lot of square feet.
Half a mile, quarter mile wide, half a mile long. I had a tricycle that I was very, very cliche, like, you know, office space kind of thing. Like I had a tricycle to get around the building, and I wanted to constantly, burn the place down. I didn't, but I didn't know what zero waste was. This was back in 2012. So it was my one diversion from Pasadena. I took this job in Bakersfield because, paid well. It was for Target, and it seemed like a good step up for my career. And I got there, and I was just in this massive warehouse from 5 a.m. until 5 p.m. looking at these 30-foot tall racks of consumer goods and pallets stacked on top of pallets of paper towels and bottled water. And, like I said, I didn't know what zero waste was at the time, but I was like, man, I feel like I'm optimizing the supply chain of this like disposable, consumer-driven kind of model that doesn't really align with my values. Yeah. So I figured as a supply chain person, well, I studied supply chains. They're very linear. You extract resources, you manufacture products, you distribute the products, you sell them, and then when the consumer is done with them, they just throw it away or recycle it or get rid of it, put it in the closet forever. Yeah. And I figured if I went to the end of the disposal or the end of the supply chain, which is the disposal, I could work my way backwards and try and make more upstream changes. In reality, it's not that easy, but that's what got me into it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, we did an interview and then had to do it. Anyways, we talked to a toy person that we know, and he was talking about the difficulty of exactly what you're talking about, and so much of the problems of doing that are involved in the fact that there isn't like the supporting technologies don't exist. So it's like it kind of requires a whole change of thought, and it takes time to get yourself from where you are to the point where people are doing things the way, or even supplying the goods you need to supply, or changing the way they get the supplies that you want to get, how they make them, are they the right quality, will people actually still buy them, things like that, and then putting that all together before you can figure out how do I make something that's gonna last and not create waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of our disposal, like we look at the trash as the default. So like recycling's nice to have, composting's nice to have, but if you're too lazy or you don't care, you just throw it in the trash. So most of our recycling programs, pretty much every recycling program requires us as consumers to opt into the program, meaning we have to choose to buy a product that's recyclable, and then we have to choose to get it into a recycle bin, and then we have to hope that the company that collects it can take it to a facility that can recover it and find a market for it, because if there's no market for the material, meaning no one wants to buy it, then it's just going to get landfilled anyway, or incinerated anyway. And it's just, I'm sure you guys are all about air quality, so incineration, I'm sure is a hot button topic, but
we love it, Jonathan. It's our favorite thing.
Burning. A lot of people seem to think that if the trash gets burned and turned into energy, that's a great option, but it still maintains that linear, straight supply chain. And I'm always trying to get things to be more circular. How can we replicate what happens in nature? And in nature, the leaves fall on the ground, and then over time they break down, they disappear. There's no gardener to take them away. There's no compost facility. There's no mulching place. There's no landfill to cover them up with. And
no, it's a perfect closed circuit loop, right? Everything works. Everything that's here is intended to be reused and changed and used again.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to ask you guys, because you're all about, air. Big push right now is this thing called quote unquote renewable natural gas. And most cities are requiring their waste haulers to buy renewable natural gas. And this is natural gas that I guess came from a byproduct of digesting like wastewater treatment. So by digesting human solids, or this byproduct of mostly anaerobic digestion, that sort of thing. And they're calling it renewable because it's coming from maybe a renewable source. It's coming from food or human waste, but it doesn't seem to maintain that cycle. You're still making a one-time use fuel. So is that, is turning that into fuel better than landfilling? Probably, but is it better than composting?
It's funny. This is a theme in general right now. I mean, it's also with they have an issue with air travel, right? That these airplanes, they don't want them to burn so much kerosene, right? So that's basically what jet fuel is. And so now they're trying to make biodiesel versions, or like biokerosene. So they're trying to make it out of other, plants. So you grow up plants so that you can then burn them. So, and the idea is that if you're growing something and then you're sucking in carbon dioxide in order to create that thing, and then by burning it, you're basically putting it back out. And so it's not quite though. You're still losing in the end. I think it's kind of the same. Human waste can be better used, I think, for other purposes. I think it's pretty well used. It could be used to help grow more life. I mean, that's sort of its original intent, right? Like animals like us are supposed to walk around and poo and pee all over the place. We were, Jacob.
Is that what we're talking about?
And that helps grow. That life which can live off of that, right? Which is mostly plant life.
Yeah.
Look, for me, anytime that you're combusting anything, it's probably not optimal. So the idea is, I mean, I think ideally, no, we wouldn't be doing that. We'd be doing something better. But there's also the problem of the transition, right? Like people are not going to stop using their iPhones. They're not going to stop using their computers. They're not going to stop wasting energy, essentially. I mean, I don't say wasting. I mean, I'm sure it's very important to people how they use their energy. Yeah. We try to be nice to people.
Consuming energy.
Consuming energy, right? So it's just like, I think that, people I think really do want to make an effort to consume less and to be better about it. That's definitely a change that's happened over the last 20 years. You definitely see people care, and they're really making an effort. But the underlying system of how we do all this is it doesn't really work. The infrastructure that's built so that we can survive with the world that we have, with the toys and tools and technology that we have, doesn't quite work, and we've got to change it. But the thing is, we're not going to change it overnight. It's just not, it won't happen. So I do think it's a good solution because I think it's a better solution than what we had before. And I think that anytime you step closer, it's better. And if we can do things to transition ourselves to where we've got to be, then we can make it out. That's kind of our perspective.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, transitory technology is always difficult because as humans, our lifespan is not very long in the grand scheme of things. So sometimes it's hard to see a solution that might last. It's not where we need to be, but it might last my entire life or longer.
Right.
Because I noticed, especially with like social media, people want it now. Whatever it is, they want it now. It's not good enough. It could be better. They want it now. They want the best. I don't know. And they want us to turn the plastic well off, like right now. Just turn it off and never use it again.
Yeah.
But
then they have no concept of what that would mean. If we turn the plastic well off right now, again, you wouldn't have your phone.
Yeah. And we talk about that all the time, about how it's such a great resource when used responsibly and used well. Plastic is something that, for medical equipment and things that we need, is a great tool. It's just getting away from this one and done model, this, disposable here and it's trash, you know.
Because its original purpose was conservation, to save like turtles, right? To save things that were being used for the same plastic purpose. Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty brilliant invention. It's just been completely abused, which is just the human way.
Yeah, classic humans.
Yeah. So like I said, I work in the waste industry. I'm a consultant. A couple of my clients are waste haulers. Those are the people that drive the garbage truck. They collect the material and
sure.
And it's always interesting because the number one pushback I get about plastic is, it's got a recycle logo on it. I'm putting it in a recycle bin. Or like in Pasadena, as you know, don't worry, they sort it. They sort through it for me, which they're supposed to do if they don't provide a recycle bin. But I could go on all day about that. But it doesn't change. I feel like it kind of, people miss the forest for the trees or something because they forget about just the sheer amount of resources that it takes to have a trash truck on the road, even if it's consuming a more renewable form of natural gas. It's still putting a lot of wear and tear on the roads. It's still a lot of truck traffic. I don't think people really realize just how many trucks are on the road just transporting their garbage somewhere.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not carbon free. These trash trucks either. It just isn't. And in fact your particulate matter is worse on those vehicles, right? And that's how you're getting asthma. That's how you're getting lung disease. It's also there's
yeah.
I hear you. It's not a good idea to have trucks running around. But sorry, go ahead.
No, just I wish that like these may be transitory things like digesting food waste and using it to power trucks or biosolids or whatever they call our human waste. But I see like even cities like Pasadena, like actively kind of fighting against like community models, like community composting models and community recycling model projects. And they don't really support those types of things. And I don't know if you noticed, there's hardly anywhere to recycle a bottle or can these days because the state changed policies. So now it's just, there's no locations that do it. And, cities like Pasadena, which could be leaders. I should ask you how many people, if the mayor listens to this or not, so that I can temper what I say or not. No,
you know what? The mayor's a good guy. The new mayor is a good guy. Yeah. He probably has. He's Victor Gordo. He's a good guy. And I think he's working hard. He's got a lot of kind of issues to deal with and change around. And he's sort of a different animal than most Pasadena. Like Pasadena is an interesting city because it's an older city, and it's got kind of an upper class. There is an element of old school wealth in this city that is a lot more powerful than people realize. And though they vote Democrat, it doesn't mean that they're that doesn't actually mean anything. People think it does, but they still want their stuff the way they want their stuff. And Victor Gordo, I like him. He's he's newer. He's not really from that group. So we'll see what he does.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. He hasn't said much he didn't say much about the environment during his campaign, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I did vote for him though because I wanted to try some change. I felt like we kind of, we had kind of the business as usual for too long, and I was ready to try something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see
that's kind of cool too. He grew up here and he went to the high schools here, and he's sort of a Pasadena boy, So it'll be cool. And an immigrant came into. He's an interesting guy.
I don't live in this city, so I don't know.
Well, yeah. So you didn't have to do look into the research.
I know
or find
nothing
out
about the Pasadena politics and the mayor or anybody.
Pasadena, Pasadena, like many cities, it absolutely could be a leader, could be ahead of the game, and could do more. And I think that's that's something that people like us, Jonathan, we got to help to push that along.
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah.
Well, when this whole thing began, and people can find you at Zero Waste Guy on Instagram, and you've got the site and everything. What kind of snowballed into you feeling the need to get this from the ground up, putting yourself on social media, and what are the things that you right out of the gate you try to get people to correct or start to learn about reducing waste or waste management in general?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you asked, like about 20 minutes ago, we started talking about how I got into it, and we still haven't gotten there yet.
That's classic Biofriendly podcast, by the way. Tangents.
Yeah, so I was, I was working in the warehouse and for Target, and then I went and traveled. I traveled Europe for a few months trying to find myself. I got back and I had been networking, and I started doing these like waste audits to where I would go to businesses on behalf of waste haulers, and I would look in their dumpster and I'd say, hey, based on the size of your dumpster, or the amount of service you have, you're required to recycle. There's no teeth to these particular laws, but I would say you are required to recycle. And if you recycled, you could adjust your service. Instead of having this dumpster emptied 6 days a week, you could have it emptied 3 days a week, and you could add a recycle bin and put all your cardboard and your bottles and cans in it. And, you'll save money and you'll meet the requirement. So I started doing that, and I just lots of networking and doing these types of this education outreach and these waste audits and that sort of thing. And then maybe in the fall of 2015, I was talking with somebody about it. I had an Instagram. I had a different name. It didn't really make sense. And I was talking to him, and he's like, you're the Zero Waste Guy. And I was like, oh, I guess I am. And then I looked, and there was, zerowasteguy.com and at Zero Waste Guy and all that stuff. So I was like,
I could brand myself.
I wish I could say it was my own doing, but really what happened was more and more people were asking me, they go, hey, I know you work in like trash. You know, I know you spend a lot of time around dumpsters and waste and recycling. Like, is this recyclable? What's recyclable? What isn't recyclable? How can I live more sustainably? So then I thought it would be a good idea to start a blog and social media to like get my ideas out there. And the number one thing I tell people is, and you guys, Noel alluded to it earlier, is like, if you want to get started reducing waste, take stock of everything you have that you buy and only intend to use once, and try and find a more durable or more reusable option. I think it's really hard to know what's going to get recycled or not going to get recycled. It's really hard to understand if, even though it says certified compostable, is it actually going to get to a facility and get composted? I have no idea. And I can tell you it's probably not going to. So I tell people to look at anything you use one time and try and find an option that's reusable. So if that's a coffee cup, a water bottle, a coffee pod, look for the more reusable option, the reusable filter, the reusable water bottle, the reusable sandwich bags. That's usually the start, because if everybody made more of an effort to prevent all the single-use plastic and single-use glass and all the things that we throw in our recycle bin, we would over time take trucks off the road because we wouldn't be generating as much material. And I think that's probably a bigger impact than a lot of things that we could do, like taking those trucks off the road, reducing the need for landfill in these facilities. That process our material.
Well, and also changing what we're putting in the landfill, like the percentage of plastic versus other things that might biodegrade a little faster. Yeah, which is a good thing too. I'm totally with you. And it's something that people can, if you conceptualize it for a minute, you think about just about how often you fill up your trash can every week, right? And how much waste that is every week. If you find ways to go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's the number one pushback I get from people is like, oh, I don't make any trash, but my recycle bin is full to the brim. I have 2 recycle bins. That's how much recycling I make every week. And I said, oh, what? And I always say to them, well, what happens to that recycling when it gets collected from your house? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
There's just trust that they're doing the right thing.
Recycle logo on it. It's like, I think you're just making yourself feel good about turning a blind eye, because you really don't know what's happening. We
don't like to do bummer runs, but I think it's time for a slight, just a tiny bummer run. I think you should kind of explain to us an example of what might happen to go through the life cycle of my recycle bin. I put everything in the recycle bin and I pulled it out and it's on the street. Now, what is the likely scenario for that recycle bin?
So it'll most likely, at least in California, I can't speak for other parts of the country. I can't even speak for other parts of the state, really, because different places. I mean, 9 years ago when I lived in Bakersfield, residential recycling was optional, and you had to pay more money to get a recycle bin. So a lot of people didn't opt in because it cost more money. Right. So I really can't speak to anywhere, but I can speak to Southern California at least. We have these things called material recovery facilities. They're called MRFs. A lot of people think, or the nickname is MRF, a lot of people think they're like recycling facilities, but we don't really recycle anything. We don't really reprocess anything here, at least not in Southern California. There are some paper mills in America. There's some glass recycling, but most plastics and papers are sorry, I said paper mills. They pulp them and they still ship them overseas somewhere to get recycled. But from a logistical standpoint, you put your cart on the street, the trash truck comes, it empties it. It takes it to a material recovery facility. They dump it on the ground. A big tractor, big toy tractor that's, the wheels are almost as tall as I am, will take big scoops, put it on a conveyor belt. It'll go through a series of conveyors that uses, depending on the facility, a combination of technology and human labor. Yes, like people, men and women. And some of them will be sometimes they pick off items that they think are going to clog the system, like grocery bags, or big bulky items that shouldn't have gotten in there, big rigid pieces of plastic. And through a combination of magnets, air, oscillating conveyor, but it's hard to really describe what the heck these things are doing.
Lots of stuff.
Do their best to separate. That's what it kind of looks like. So
I love it. If you're watching the show, this is how you explain it.
Your hands are going up and down. Things are flying everywhere. It's like a tornado.
I love it.
And the goal is different. Depending on the facility, the goal might be different. There's a difference between what is recyclable versus what's marketable. So sometimes they will collect some sort of commodity, some sort of mixed paper, and they'll make it into a bale, like a hay bale that weighs 1,000 pounds or something. Sometimes they can sell it. Sometimes they can pay to get rid of it because maybe landfilling might cost $50 or $60 per ton in California, in Southern California. And maybe they'll pay $40 a ton to have somebody come collect it from them and take it somewhere, usually Asia, to be recycled. Oh, wow. And it's oftentimes, it may not even be cheaper to pay to have it shipped off or recycled, but our main goal in California is to divert it from landfills in California. So as long as it's diverted from the landfill, we call it kind of recycled, and we kind of set it and forget it. So I touched on a lot of things, but the important things to note are recycling only works if somebody buys the material. And oftentimes we ship it to Asia to be recycled. If somebody doesn't want to buy it, maybe they will still divert. They'll pay to get rid of it because it helps meet their goals, their minimum requirements of diverting materials from landfills. Another thing to note, as I mentioned, is there are a lot of humans that interact with our trash and our recycling. They're in the transfer stations, they're in the facilities. Sometimes they're on almost like sorting lines, and they're like looking down at the conveyor belt, and they're trying to pick off commodities that are maybe higher value or clogging the system. So there's a lot of like kind of the human side of processing our waste that people don't really think about. Wow. And then, as I said, the end goal is it depends on who you ask. If it's a private facility, the end goal is to make a profit. But from the governmental standpoint, the end goal is to divert material from landfills. So if we can burn it as fuel, sometimes that can be, they call it transformation because they're transforming it into energy. It's just a fancy way of saying waste to energy. Sometimes we're seeing as they're pelletizing plastics, a lot of the plastics that are like lower value that are still, you figure most cities now in California are taking plastics. They're saying we want plastic number 1, which is like a water bottle, PET, plastic number 2, which is like a detergent bottle or that sort of thing, HDPE. Sometimes they'll take plastic number 5, which is polypropylene, which you'll see in like food containers, yogurt containers. And they're still getting slammed with all these other plastics. Number 3 is PVC, which is pretty toxic. Number 4 is I go all these things. Number 6 is polystyrene, styrofoam. And then number 7 is other. So it's like a catch-all. And they're just, a lot of times they're getting slammed with these materials because they have recycle logos on them. So people throw them in the recycle bin thinking they're going to get recycled. So we've also been seeing a trend of taking these plastics where there's no market, and they're pelletizing them, and they call it refuse-derived fuel. So refuse is another name for trash. Refuse-derived fuel, and they're using them in like cement kilns, something that would normally be powered by like coal, like in some sort of like foundries and manufacturing. And maybe instead of using coal or natural gas, they're using these plastic pellets to heat these big old kilns for different types of like rendering and manufacturing processes. So
holy cow.
I feel like it always sounds like doom and gloom, but until you shine a light on it, like there's so much darkness, there's so much opacity in what happens with our waste and our recycling. And I think we really need to shed a light on it. That's really the only way to drive any change. And
I agree.
People really need to know that most of their plastic isn't getting recycled. A lot of it is actually could be getting burned or turned into pellets and ultimately be burned. And a lot of it's just getting thrown away. And I think that until we kind of face that, we're not going to really drive any change. And we really need to change that paradigm, or at least the mindset that everything, because it has a recycle logo and it's put in a recycle bin, means it's actually getting recycled into a comparable quality material. And even that's not true. Most plastic is what they call downcycled. So it goes from a water bottle to a park bench, and maybe that park bench has a 5-year shelf life or a 10-year or 20-year, but then once that park bench wears out, it's just going to be garbage.
Yeah, they can't recycle it again.
It's better than nothing, but I think people need to reorient or reset their expectations about what it means to recycle and what it means to be biodegradable or compostable.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and just to put a button on the bummer run. If you think about what was just said there, so shipping stuff to be recycled in Asia, which, a good portion of the time is actually put in a landfill in Asia, means that not only have you still just thrown it away or gotten rid of it, or just delayed the time that it takes for it to be thrown away, but you've added the carbon emissions of what it is to put it on a ship and send it across of the largest ocean on Earth to another country where then they handle it. So it's and then you think about, so what is coal is an upgrade from wood, right? In terms of, it's funny that people would think about that, but like when you think about burning and what causes the most emissions, what causes the most damage, you don't want to burn wood, really. Yeah, I mean we do. Really? It's fine, and you get some heat out of it, and that's pretty good. Coal is an upgrade. Trash.
Oh, is that because of the efficiency? Sorry to interrupt. That's because of the efficiency of the coal. Like wood is not as efficient as
wood is not as efficient.
Byproduct, more
exactly
like more soot compared to coal or something.
Exactly,
less efficient.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so trash is even less efficient. I'm assuming
trash is less efficient than wood.
Yeah.
So now what we're doing is we're taking something like coal that we all have agreed pretty much. People hate coal. Coal's so bad, right? There's this general agreement amongst most people now. They've done a good job marketing that coal is bad in America. So wood, which isn't used. It is used a lot, as we discovered earlier, but not for like industrial purposes. We're talking about something that's worse than even wood, as trash that's now being burned in place of coal in the name of recycling. So there's your button on
there's actually the closest waste to energy plant to us is in Long Beach. So as if they don't have enough bad emissions because of the ports and all the truck traffic and whatnot. The county of LA operates a waste to energy facility in Long Beach. And if you live in a single family home in Long Beach or somewhere where the city hauls your trash, it's going right to the incinerator. It's not getting sorted through. Right. It's not getting, they're not pulling any contaminants out. It's going right to the incinerator.
Yeah.
So
I would ask you. So can I ask you? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about waste. It's about energy. Yeah. So I didn't know that wood was less efficient. Now that it makes sense now you're explaining it. I have family members who live in rural Northern California, big logging area, and they were. My cousin was telling me with a lot of pride about how they take all the wood, because in the wood mills and whatnot, there's lots of dust and powder and small pieces that fall through the cracks or whatever.
Sure.
Right.
And he was telling me with a lot of pride about how they have a cogeneration plant. So they take all the wood scraps and they send it to the cogen plant, and then they generate clean energy, and about how it's this very environmentally friendly way of doing it. And it sounds like it's not.
Sawdust would be cleaner than just straight wood. It would be because you've already broken it down into something that's easier to burn. So that's
okay.
Like coal they can pulverize. They actually don't just put like when you think of coal as charcoal briquettes sitting in a barbecue when we burn it, but that's not how they do it.
Yeah.
They pulverize it in a tiny little powder, and then they shoot the powder through a giant boiler and then heat that up. So and that's how they get it more efficient. It's just like what's the easiest way? What takes the least amount of energy to get you to a point where it's powder. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if they're doing like if they're doing the sawdust, it would be better than just burning straight wood for sure. So I don't want you to get into trouble with your family talking about wood. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be as efficient as other things. But I mean, it's not as bad as just
burning trash.
Just burning. It's better than burning trash for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I was just curious. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, you're good.
No, but go ahead.
No, but I mean, I think that this kind of as big as that bummer run was, it does highlight the point that we, in the end, what's going to make the difference is going to be us. And it's funny you talked about it's all opt-in. It's still like saving the planet is unfortunately still opt-in, right? Yeah. It's done by us making decisions.
Yeah.
And I think having an understanding that you're recycling. It's being managed, as best I suppose as people can do at the moment, but we haven't got it right yet.
Yeah.
That's another reason to just try to get less in either of those bins.
Yeah. And because
I think it's to take your head out of the sand and be realistic and say, common sense says you put a loose little tiny piece of plastic or anything in your bin that it's probably not going to get recovered.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it does get recovered, it's probably not going to be used for this as wholly high and mighty of a purpose as you think it is. And just be a little more realistic about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the recycling, this is the unfortunate thing, is the recycling message was pitched so hard to the American people, and it took a long time for it to get absorbed. It was like it was like literally pulling teeth to get people to be like, all right, fine. Like my mother was just visiting us, and we had this long conversation, and I do this show, and she was like, well, I recycle, and I was like, I get that, and I think that's wonderful, Mom. But then I started breaking down how so much of the things that she was, feeling good about was probably I was giving my mom a bummer run, and so, but she had her mouth open, and I realized the problem is there was 20 years spent in this country to really convince people like if you do that, it'll help, and then the problem is. Now everybody's like, well, I'm helping, aren't I? And so
they've been betrayed.
But like Jonathan said, this is we have to shine the light on it. It's only going to get better the more that we talk about it, expose it, and just say this is a situation, and now we've got to find new ways to reduce what it is that we're buying. Right?
I also want to. But before I'm sorry to keep cutting up, but I want. There's a point to our show that we talk about when we pitch it when we would get ourselves into whatever conventions and other things and get people to come on the show or whatever else. What our pitch on the show is that you want to. All we're trying to do is get people to have a change of mindset. Right, and our first ever episode was about straws and how if you don't use a straw, does it do a heck of a lot for the environment? Well, no, not in the grand scheme of things. No, not really. Not really. It's a tiny amount of plastic, and we use some straws, but it's not really the end of the world. But the point is, if you choose to not use a straw, then you've had a change of mindset where you're now thinking about it and you're looking at it. Now, one thing that's bright about recycling before everybody gets lost and hates the world about, the fact that recycling is not working out.
I didn't mean to do that. Yeah.
Well, but this, because we have done a bum run and you got to show the other side of it, is that every single person on earth who has made the decision that recycling is a good thing and I'm helping and I'm doing something different, those people all had a change of mindset already. That change of mindset is there. And so by recycling, you are doing the right thing because your mind is in the right place and your heart is in the right place. So we're just saying that more needs to be done on the other end, which people like Jonathan are working on to make the recycling a little bit better. But in the meantime, we've got to do our part to actually do even a little more if you can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. Behavioral change takes a long time, and we were marketed to, like Jacob's mom was marketed to for for most of her life that we need to recycle. And there's organizations like Keep America Beautiful. There's like the infamous one that is funded by big manufacturers of disposable single-use products like Coca-Cola and those types of companies. And they told your mom and everyone's mom over and over and over again that the reason why we have litter is because people like your mom don't recycle properly.
Right.
And they even very infamously had a Native American crying because tearing. He had a whole Native American garb on, crying because, Americans are the white man is polluting his homeland. But it was the message they're sending. And not only is it a bunch of baloney, but it was also the guy wasn't even Native American. He was an Italian actor who just happened to
that's classic
be able to
USA.
look the part. And
oh my God!
I think it does bring up it brings up a good point though. Is that we've been given bad information, or that either we're not recycling properly, or by recycling we're doing all that we can do. And I think that now that we know, the more and more we talk about it, we know that, recycling is good, but it's not the end all be all. It's not the only thing we can do. I think that we kind of have an obligation to keep on asking more questions and figuring out, well, what's the next step? And the first step is like I was saying earlier, is start to look at ways to stop using disposable single-use items. Because you're right, plastic has a lot of utility. Plastic will last a very long time. I have plastic things that have been in my life for decades. My backpacking mat, the inflatable mat, the thing that comes to mind. It's very old, and there's no glass model that you can use to replace it.
Right.
It'll last forever, and I take care of it. I try to make sure when I'm done using it, I fold it up and I deflate it properly and everything. But that's different than you just get takeout coffee because it's convenient.
Yeah. I have
we kind of take,
I still have my Luke Skywalker action figure, and it's plastic, and it's been with me my whole life.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. And all the pleasure you've gotten from that Luke Skywalker action figure.
I'll never get rid of it.
It'll never go away. Yeah, no, so we've talked about how you can take your portable coffee mug. We have our little Biofriendly podcast once that we occasionally give away.
Yes.
You can take your coffee mug to any coffee shop, and they'll fill it up for you, and they'll even often give you a discount if you do that, right? Yeah. I mean, it seems like a little thing, except you think about how many cups of coffee the people that you have in a week, and then how much space that takes in a bin, right? Yeah. And you just add that up, and over time you're reducing bins.
Yeah.
I did a collaboration with a company that makes the K-Cups, the single serve coffee pods. Yeah. And they have a partnership with TerraCycle to take the pods back and recycle them. I know K-Cup does it, Nespresso does it. Yep. Is it the best solution? I don't know, but I think it's better than nothing. Right. And man, I got annihilated on my social media. I haven't even posted. So it was on Earth Day. It was about a month ago. I haven't even posted since then because I was disheartened that people were just so mean to me, saying, why am I greenwashing? Why am I promoting disposable coffee? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And I said to them, God, there are offices right here in America that go through hundreds of these K-Cups every single day, and they throw them in the trash. So if I can get one of these offices to put them in a freaking recycle bin and make sure that they're going to get the coffee grounds removed, I don't know if they can recycle the plastic or not, but hopefully they can at least separate the coffee grounds and compost or digest them. And I was just kind of blown away at how vicious people were attacking me for saying, that's not zero waste, that's not sustainable, that's not good enough.
One of the things that we fight for and fight with here at Biofriendly is kind of the modern way of handling problems, which is all or nothing, and also being mean. I mean, unfortunately, this is one thing that stops a lot of new environmentalists from joining the cause. Are current environmentalists? Because they're mean. Not all of them. But enough of them. Right? Enough of them that you have a situation like this where it's like there is more information to this than you are looking at in your 2-second flash where you're repeating what someone else said, and therefore you think it's important that you say the same thing.
It's not research if you read a blog. Yeah. It's not research. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
You're right.
It's like there's people that this is their entire career is to figure this out. You don't get to read a Facebook article and then become an expert on what the K-Cup situation is.
Get indignant to poor Jonathan who's just trying to save the planet.
It's just that's the thing is I admire what you're doing, and we are no strangers to that whole culture. And I'm just letting you know you found friends in this environmental community that believe the same thing, which is
give up. Don't stop tweeting. Get back out there.
Get back out there on Instagram.
Social media. You've got friends. You've got people who are with you. You've got support. You can't give up.
Yeah, I'm excited that we're neighbors too. So maybe we can meet in real life.
Absolutely. No, don't give up. There's actually more. There are more people who are sensible than aren't. It's just that the ones who aren't don't know what to do, so they're too loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, the analogy I try to make, it's like a boat. It's like a ship or a boat that's got holes in it and it's like sinking. It's like plastic pollution is like, it's just like we're getting overwhelmed with all this plastic everywhere in the environment. Yeah. Like the boat, it's like we got holes in the boat, and it's like some people are like, well, just turn off the spigot, stop the, but you have to scoop the water out and patch up the holes at the same time. Yeah. If you try to just patch up the holes, it'll sink. And if you try just to scoop the water without patching the holes, it'll also sink. And I think that we need to do everything's on the table. And I think that kind of like you said, like we get in these a lot of environmentalists, they think whatever I'm doing is the most important thing. Or we get all the social justice warriors and they say, well, whatever I'm doing is the most important thing. And all these things are important and we need all of them. Like this is not a one solution problem. This is like a systemic problem of we are consuming way more resources than the world can handle. And we are pumping way too much carbon into the environment than the world can handle. And we need to do everything we can to reduce it. And apparently not use Bitcoin because I guess Elon started taking Bitcoin, and now Tesla is not taking Bitcoin anymore because of the environmental impact.
Okay, all right. So it's so funny. God, this is such a funny industry. So yes, no, I read that too. But just for the record, most of these mining companies have already transitioned to renewable energy. To power their mines. Yeah. So it's actually I think that Elon Musk was trying to bring attention to this and get all of the mining companies to jump in, but it's actually it's not that it's. I think he's trying to push in other countries because in China they're getting really big into the Bitcoin game, and they're not using the same kind of most of our North American bit currency is made in Canada because it's cold, and most of the currency made in Europe is made like in Norway or in northern Russia because it's cold, because you got to cool down all these really hot processors that are creating the Bitcoin, and so that in China they have cold areas too. It's just that in that area they're not really, they don't care. They don't care. They just want the money. Yeah. So they're calling it like blood currency because of that. But most of it is actually, believe it or not so bad. But I think that Elon Musk is trying to sort of bring awareness to that there's still some issues here we got to look at. But
I think he's just trying to play God.
Yeah, well, that's his favorite thing.
Yeah. Well, I do have to keep Jonathan on point. I can't, because he's got to go.
What?
He's got to go.
We're already there.
We're running.
Can we talk more? There's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We'll just have to have you back, buddy. And next time it'll be possibly in person.
In person,
right?
Yeah,
that'd be rad.
There was something you said that I was going to get.
We've got a few minutes. I'm just keeping us on point to cover what we can before he's got to go.
Crypto, which got me all excited. Had to talk about the crypto, which is fair. No,
yes, yeah.
But oh man.
Jonathan, is there what's some stuff that you'd like to touch on before we wrap things up? Anything? It was just funny because Noel was talking about China, or that's been the big national politics thing. Like, we don't need to do anything for the environment because China and India are going to consume way more resources, so it doesn't matter anyway. And right. I think we need to stop. We are in America. We have the money, we have the resources to do anything, and we need to lead. And I don't really care. That's kind of like, if you're like, oh, all my neighbors are overweight, so therefore I'm just going to let myself go and eat like a pig.
Right.
It's like, we don't do that. We go, no, I want to eat healthy. I want to exercise. I want to stay in shape. That is completely unrelated to what anyone else is doing. So in America, we need to lead, and we need to advocate for policy change, and we need to support innovation and things that are going to continue to make us be leaders. And I don't really buy that idea that if China is going to not care or emit pollution or whatever, therefore we can just be a free for all because it doesn't matter. And I think that's right. A bad way to look at it.
That's right. No, it's got to be the opposite, and we've got to do a good job of holding our neighbors a bit more accountable. I mean, look, this is the way that we do it in America is a mess. China can do what they do because we are desperate to consume. And that's the issue. It's just we just consume too much, and we haven't as a culture quite adjusted to that. But I think we'll get there because I think it's important to people. Yeah. And
which means that we have the power because we're so consumer based. That means that we are the spigot. We can turn it off.
We absolutely are.
Have a really big difference.
That's the funny thing about it, is we absolutely are. We are the spigot. We're the ones who are consuming everything that everyone's selling. Us and Europe a lot consumes quite a bit.
We can take the power back.
Take the power back, Jacob.
Rage Against the Machine once said.
Yes, they did. No, but I just don't give up, Jonathan. Before you don't give up. I can tell you every single environmental cause that is going on right now is doing something wrong. I mean, I know it's funny to say, but people who are all about electric cars, I can give you a fact-based argument as to why electric cars will destroy the world one day.
Right.
All right. In terms of renewable energy, I give you a fact-based argument as to why renewable energy will destroy the world one day. Yeah. All of this, there are problems with all of this, but the heart behind it and the path that these things can lead us to eventually are where we need to get. Yeah. So everybody's doing something wrong, but we're all trying to do the right thing. So don't give up on your cause because people who don't know anything are knocking you down. Yeah. Get back on social media. Get out there. You can do this.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't know this was going to be such a productive therapy session.
I love it.
All right.
John,
I guess we better let you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, we won't tell anyone about this conversation. It's all private. HIPAA.
This is all your secrets are safe with us.
Jonathan Levy, man, we had so much fun with you, and we're really looking forward to being buddies here in Pasadena. Thanks for coming on the Biofriendly podcast.
I'm really excited about that. So I feel like I have like environmental allies.
You do.
In my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great day, great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right.
Well.
Wow. That was awesome.
That went deep.
It did go deep. And I mean, I got to say, what I really loved about it, first of all, here's a really knowledgeable guy who knows his stuff and he's trying to help the world. Yeah. And he's been bullied on the internet.
Literally
bullied.
Literally, this is a guy that's so funny. Here's a guy.
He's trying to save the world.
Who's actively not just tweeting, not just virtue signaling, not just out there, out there telling people that he's great. Here's someone who's actually going out there and coming up with ways to make the problem less.
It's unbelievable.
And he's being attacked by virtue signalers.
Yes. I
doesn't want to tweet. Doesn't want to go on social media.
Yeah, because the audience, you guys are great, and we love you guys. And I think we joke a lot about the browbeating, but that was an example.
This is what we're talking about.
That was literally a real life example.
Our own industry attempting to kill one of our champions.
One of our champions who's out there and doing the work and really helping things. And yet he's been told, man, that's crazy. Because it is one of those things you realize, you go, okay, yeah, K-cups. There's a problem. So what's this in-between solution? How can we solve it? And everybody's like, get rid of all of them. And you're like, there's so many people with Keurigs. There's so many people who still have them. Yeah.
No, come in. No, please.
Elise, come on in.
This is the end of the, ladies and gentlemen. Elise is this is proof that Elise is getting mad at us.
We
had to do it early. We didn't tell you because we didn't want you to feel like you had to come.
Yes.
Early in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Elise.
I know. We said to the audience up front, we're like,
Elise made it on the show. Just kind of,
just passing through.
Secretly passing through. Yes. So. Yes,
but
you're absolutely right. It's so funny. It's so funny. This industry because it's seated so firmly in this kind of modern social media hate fest.
Yeah.
And it's an issue. Like if you're a part of any of these environmental groups on Facebook, or following some of the bigger accounts on Instagram and Twitter, it's like it's amazing.
It is amazing.
The infighting, the fighting between people who you'd think should agree.
Yeah,
it blows my mind.
And when he was saying, "I'm glad I've got friends," I suddenly thought of a really great song parody that we could do, which is, I've got friends in green places. That we could do. Because it's literally about like when you have friends that are also environmentalists or aren't jerks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Oh, I got friends in green places.
Yeah. That's our jam.
Anyway, you guys, that was so fun. That was a great episode. I loved meeting Jonathan and looking forward to hanging out with him in person. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Let's do our tags. And we don't even have Elise here to guide us through unless she shouts.
We may have to call her in from the other, to mess it so we don't mess this whole thing up.
We are your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Carefully avoiding neonicotinoids.
We are the Siegfried and Roy and Meryl Streep of podcasts.
This show is a joke.
Never believe.
Step 1. Don't make fun of your friends.
No, here it goes.
Step 1. Try harder. Step 1. Chill out.
There it is. He got Elise laughing at him. And I don't think there was anyone after that. Or was there? I
mean, I'm sure there probably is, but we don't know what
we
it
don't
is.
know anymore.
Therefore,
we don't know what's going on. Elise isn't here, and so we can't have the guidance. But thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week.
You can't even. I'm not even. It looks like I don't have socks on. Isn't it?
It does. It does look like you don't. But they're just so small.
I picked low socks.
They're petite.
Less waist.
It is
because there's less socks.
It's less waist.
These are my zero waist.
These
socks.
are zero waist socks. I love it. They're made out of K-cups.
Yeah. What if we started doing zero waist underpants? Which is no underpants at all.
That is definitely an episode. Who says we haven't been this entire time, Noel?
Ooh. Cheerio.
Cheerio. Say bye. There she goes.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.